Houthi rebels hijack a cargo ship near Hodeidah and continue threatening the safety of the Red Sea. The government forces advance in Shabwa and liberate new areas in the city. Local human rights organization says hundreds die in Houthi jails due to extreme torture. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shaza Abdelbey. The Iran-backed Houthi rebels hijacked a United Arab Emirates cargo vessel west of Hodeidah's coast. The ship was heading to the Saudi port of Jizan from the Yemeni Red Sea island of Socotra when it was attacked just before midnight on Sunday. Saudi official media said the vessel was carrying medical equipment, while the Houthi said the vessel posed a threat to the safety and security in Yemen. The coalition has accused the Houthis of attacking shipping in the Red Sea, one of the world's busiest marine lanes leading to the Suez Canal. The UK Sea Trade Operations said late Sunday it had received reports of an attack on a vessel near Yemen's port of Ras Isa. It said the hijacked position lies slightly north of Hodeidah, citing that it was not clear if it was the same attack by Houthis. The United Kingdom Sea Trade Operations issued a recommendation for sailors to exercise extreme caution in that area. The Arab Parliament strongly condemned the terrorist Houthi militia's armed piracy on the UAE-flagged cargo ship Rawabi. The Arab Parliament warned of the danger the Houthi militia poses to the freedom of navigation and international trade in Bab el-Mandab and the southern Red Sea. The parliament stressed that the Houthis' cowardly act of terrorism indicates that its hand is stained day after day in the region, stressing that the rebels became a symbol of threat to the security of the region. Egypt condemned Houthi hijacking of a cargo ship carrying UAE flag. Egypt stressed such terrorist operations poses a real threat to the freedom and safety of navigation in the Red Sea, as well as open violation of rules of international law. It called for the immediate release of the ship. In the Red Sea, Houthi control of the city of Hodeidah poses a danger to the safety of this highly important waterway and the entire region. More on the story is within this report.
The Red Sea is a critical waterway for world commerce. Houthi rebels in Yemen present a significant threat to international trade and transportation through this vital route. Throughout the conflict in Yemen, Houthi rebels and their allies have seized strategic ports along the Yemeni coast and used them to attack foreign vessels navigating through Red Sea waters. The Red Sea is a highly strategic arena for international and regional actors. Its role as a waterway for global trade makes the region a key geopolitical interest. By 2050, the Red Sea region's GDP is projected to more than triple, and its volume of trade is expected to grow more than fivefold. This amassing of wealth, driven by oil and energy sectors, is just one aspect of what the Red Sea region has to offer. While approximately 10% of all global trade passes through its waters, it is a critical zone for armed conflict, military entanglement, and great power competition and projection. Foreign military installations are stationed around Bab el-Mandab Strait, at the entrance of the Red Sea, and in the Gulf of Aden. Opportunities for maritime trade and international commerce are often suffocated by the security situation in the Red Sea. Bab el-Mandab Strait is now more than ever affected by the economic and military interests of major players in the Red Sea region. The strait is vital for the flow of oil and international commerce. It is the shortest trade route between the Mediterranean region, the Indian Ocean, and East Asia, and it funnels billions of dollars in maritime trade. However, as violence continues in Yemen, more threats are expected for the security of the strait and the Red Sea as a whole.
The joint forces continue their advances on battlefronts in the western area of Shabwa. Field sources reported that the units of the Southern Giants Brigades launched attacks on Houthi positions on by-hand fronts and managed to take areas to its north. The sources added that the units of the Giants Brigades made field progress and took control of the Hema joint. This comes as government forces took full control of Al-Alam camp amid collapse among Houthi ranks. The Giants Brigades announced yesterday the success of the first phase of Shabwa operation by restoring important areas. Coalition said hundreds of Houthi militants were killed in airstrikes in Shabwa. In a statement, the coalition said it carried out operations targeting against the Houthi militia in the governorate. It pointed out that the air raid killed more than 130 tourist Houthis, in addition to destroying 15 military vehicles for them. Dozens of Houthis were killed and injured in a shelling by the government forces in Ma'rib. Government forces carried out artillery shelling targeting the militia positions and movements on the southern and western fronts in Ma'rib. The shelling also resulted in the destruction of 4 equipments for the rebels.
Houthi rebels fancy that they are able to get into Ma'rib. This is impossible. They are in the deserts right now. They have consumed their strength. We are ready to confront them. The war is still in its beginning. Houthi rebels are in their weakest stage and we are monitoring their movement closely. The lessons they have received will never be forgotten. Their dead bodies are scattered there in the mountains. We are observing them closely. Whatever lies they say, it's impossible that
Houthi rebels carried out drone attacks in Lahj, south of Yemen. A government source said the attack led to the death of 1 person and the injury of at least 2 others. He pointed out that the Houthis deployed large military reinforcements, including cruise vehicles, tanks, to the military contact sites in Lahj in an attempt to advance and control the mountain of Al-Ar. Government forces announced the killing and injury of a number of Houthis in Hajjah governorate in northern Yemen. The media center of the 5th Military stated that the army forces in the area targeted Houthi elements who tried to infiltrate towards their positions north of Abs district. The coalition said Saudi defenses shot down and destroyed 3 drones launched towards the southern region of the kingdom. It confirmed that it monitored the launch of the drones from the capital Sana'a, citing that Houthis are using civilians as human shields. The coalition affirmed its determination to take operational measures to deal with the threat immediately. Irada organization documented 200 deaths in Houthi jails in 7 years, those who have been attributed to extreme torture. The organization outlined that the Houthi militia is using more than 13,000 abductees as human shields and risking their lives in violation to all international laws. Media sources said the Houthi rebels buried 221 of their members who were killed on the fighting fronts in Ma'rib, Taz, and Hodeidah. According to the sources, the number of those killed with military positions were 165. The team monitored dozens of children among the dead and reported their numbers to be accounted for 20% of the dead. Coming next. The year 2021 is considered the worst for journalists in Yemen.
اضطرينا أن نغادر من ذي وزحنا.
الله يستنقذكم يا محويتني الله يستنقذ.
Welcome back. Freedom of speech in Yemen has become a far cry, especially in the Houthi-controlled areas. Reporters Without Borders has described the country of being a high-risk zone for journalists to work in. This report has more details.
The year 2021 is described as the worst year for journalists. Journalists in Yemen suffer a hard reality for a number of reasons. The Houthi coup in Yemen and the lack of respect for freedom of expression and fear of the press and journalists in particular. This has made Yemen an unsafe place to work. Yemen ranks 169th out of 180 countries in the Reporters Without Borders World Press Freedom Index for 2021. As it's classified among the worst countries in terms of suppressing freedom of expression. The Media Freedoms Observatory in Yemen documented 86 violations against media freedoms in Yemen during the year 2021, which varied between different types of violations, including killing, injury, kidnapping, assault, and targeting media institutions. The most prominent violations of the terrorist Houthi militia were the killing of 4 journalists in a hideous way in less than a month. Ahmed Bousaleh, Tariq Mustafa, Ahmed Baras, and Rasha Al-Harazi. Terrifying methods were used against journalists by planting explosives under cars, like in the case of Mahmoud Al-Atmi and his pregnant wife Rasha Al-Harazi. Houthi militia topped the list of perpetrators of violations against journalists in Yemen, with 40 violations of the total cases recorded during the past year, and 21 violations committed by parties affiliated with the Yemeni government. The Yemeni Journalist Syndicate has also documented 24 violations of press freedom in the country between January and March 2021, ranging from arbitrary detentions to assaults and threats. 13 journalists are still disappeared, having been kidnapped, 11 of them by Houthis, some for 5 years, and all of them are in critical and very difficult circumstances. Besides the illegal status of their detentions, they are deprived of medical treatment and not allowed to be visited by their families. Media work in Yemen is described as walking in a minefield, given the many challenges they face and the difficulty of continuing in an unfriendly environment for media work, as the number of journalists killed during the past 7 years reached 50 journalists and media workers from 2015 until the end of year 2021. In the end, a journalist is not an enemy, but just a person who seeks to report the truth as it is, an eyewitness to events, not to be treated as a military target or forced to change his or her job in order to survive. Freedom of speech has been confiscated since Houthis took control. How can a country survive while they don't even have the right to speak in their own country?
Displaced people continue to suffer, even those who have been state employees. Teachers from Hodeidah who have sought displacement in Taiz staged a protest to demand their unpaid salaries. More on the story is within this report.
In Taiz, many displaced teachers continue to carry out protests in front of the temporary local authority building against the non-disbursement of their salaries and the completion of financial and administrative transfer procedures to the legitimate governors. In the protest, teachers displaced from the areas controlled by the Houthi militia demanded the legitimate government to quickly disburse their annual bonuses and the 30% increase, as they have been working in the field since 4 years of displacement.
We are displaced teachers from Hodeidah into the city of Taiz. We haven't received our salaries. On behalf of all teachers from Hodeidah city, I assure you that we don't get paid. Last time I received my salary was on December 2015. Until today, we haven't taken a single rial. I'm a displaced teacher to the city of Taiz with my family. We call on the government to pay our salaries. How are we being ruled by a government that does not recognize our rights?
نزحنا من مناطق سيطرة الحوثي.
We've been displaced from Houthi-controlled areas to the government areas. But to them, it's like we don't exist. They cut off our salaries for many years now. We are dedicated and committed to our work in schools without receiving anything in return, not a single real. We ask the government, the Ministry of Finance and the civil service to work on this issue and quickly pay our salaries since the cut-off till now. We've families to support and provide for. We've children and sick family members that we can't pay for their treatment or living. We grew old, working for 30 years now in the educational sector.
Teachers in Yemen are suffering since their salaries have been cut off. They can provide for their families, they ask for nothing but their rights. How are they supposed to educate students and raise them? Why they can't raise their own children?
The Central Bank of Yemen held the first meeting of its board of directors, headed by the new governor Ahmed Ghalib. Ghalib noted that a generous funding will come to Yemen from donors, especially the Gulf Cooperation Council. He added that the funding will enable Yemen to overcome difficulties, achieve stability, and restore balance and growth. The governor of the central bank called on all parties to carry out their duties, especially in collecting states' resources and rationalizing of spending. A new crisis for oil erupted in the temporary capital of Aden. Local sources confirmed that the crisis erupted suddenly after most stations closed their doors and the price of gasoline rose in the black market. The National Committee Against Coronavirus recorded 8 new cases of the pandemic. Also, committee officials said 12 recovered cases were recorded and no deaths. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 10,138, including 1,984 deaths and 7,039 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Houthi rebels hijack a cargo ship near Hodeidah and continue threatening the safety of the Red Sea. The government forces advance in Shabwa and liberate new areas in the city. Local human rights organization says hundreds die in Houthi jails due to extreme torture. This is the end of the news. For more, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Yemen Today English. Thank you for watching.